Sucks Hannah's dead. But we got our movie.
Hi, guys.
Hello, children. Welcome to something we've anticipated doing for quite a while.
Yeah, wow.
Very long time. So, a brief backstory. I got this movie because I saw it on YouTube Shorts, or it was YouTube Shorts or Instagram Reels. And I bought the movie and I really liked it. So I showed it to Logan. And then Logan really liked it. And then I found the TV series on Tubi, and I really liked that. So then I bought all of those. And then I showed it to Logan. And Logan really liked it. And then Logan borrowed them from me, and he's watched all the TV series. And now we're caught up to season 3 of 6. And so
yeah,
we're slowly going through that. Anticipate not a full watch along because series 2 has over 150 episodes.
Quite a lot of them.
So yeah, we're not going to do a full watch along of everything, but we're probably going to pick out a few and do a couple watch alongs. So keep an eye on those for the radar. But this is Lupin the Third, the First, one of our favorite Lupin movies. Second to me, it's second to Cagliostro. Which one do you like better, Cagliostro or this one?
Oh no, I haven't really decided yet. They're both really good.
They're both very good. I mean, Cagliostro holds a spot in my heart because it's cool, because it's directed by Miyazaki. We're going to keep an eye on the channel because we're going to do this one. We have a few other reviews and watch-alongs and stuff coming out, and then we plan on doing one for Cagliostro as well. We think some of the other ones, I won't say. They'll either be watch-alongs or they'll be reviews, most likely. But most likely it'll lean towards watch-alongs.
Yeah, so we can get more Lupin stuff out to you.
We want to get it out to you. We want to get it out to you faster.
Faster and harder.
Faster, harder, longer, and uncut. Do we want to get into the movie now?
Yeah, let's go ahead and start.
We start our movie with a little bit of a cold open, as the Lupin movies tend to do. We have Letitia as a baby, along with Bresson and both of her parents. Bresson hands the Bresson diary, over to her parents, who take it in the car, and he says, "Get this as far away as humanly possible." So they get in the car and they take it down the road, and unluckily for them, that is right when the Nazis are coming to get the diary as well. They pass each other going through the road, and one of the cars turns and follows them. The Nazis go into Bresson's house. Bresson says he'll never give the book to them, and then they open fire and kill him.
Yeah.
Then we cut back over to the car where Lambert is chasing Letitia and her family. And Letitia's a baby at this point. I don't remember if I said that or not.
You did.
Okay. But they're chasing Letitia and her mom and dad down the road. They're doing a bunch of maneuvers and stuff. And then eventually they get to a cross in the road. And a big truck is going through. And they collide into it and just
teabag the shit out of that truck.
Fucking tumble, crash. You know what I mean? And then Lambert kicks his door open and hobbles over to their car and steals the key, which was given to little Letitia. Just fucking books it. That man's gone!
Yeah.
Then we see the camera pick up from where we were and go over into a section of the forest and drop down onto the Bresson diary, which was thrown out of the car while they were going. And it zooms in on the gears, and then we start getting that beautiful intro sequence.
So good. This was the only Lupin movie as of right now to model their intro and song after the TV series or the anime. Because the song that they used is a mix between the original and the 80s theme.
Yeah. When they credited Yoko Ono, I figured that. Because that man drops some bangers.
It's such a good intro.
Dude.
Such a good song.
That song is so good, and that intro is it's so fun.
Catchy. Yeah.
It's like if you took James Bond, but you made it good.
You just ticked off so many people.
I don't care. They like James Bond movies. Anyway,
The Bond's Bond.
The Bond's name's John. John's Bond's having a strong
Call.
Bond. So they go to... That was 10 or so years ago. So that was 10 or so years ago. Now it is present day. Lupin is nowhere to be seen, but they're at the museum with the unveiling of the Bresson diary. The diary, they're like, we have finally found the diary. And it's like, we have given a letter from Lupin!
His calling card.
And they're like, oh no!
What will we ever do?
And it's like, we need to get this to a safe place. And so they
Little do they know.
They go to the guy goes, I'll take it to my room. And the lady cop goes, I think this is Lupin.
Which is actually Letitia in disguise.
And Lupin goes,
You're a smart police lady.
and Zengada goes, I've got you now, Lupin. Which I want to take this moment to say, this English cast is so fucking good. I love them so much.
They're so over the top, but it's so fun.
It is. You watch the other ones and you realize everybody's so over the top. It feels like, with the ones that I've seen so far, it really feels like people have fun doing these. Which I'm happy about because it really shows through on these, especially this one.
Yeah.
This one's just an insane plot. But to get back to the plot, Lupin farts through the sleeve of his and everybody's like, ooh, that's stinky. And then he shoots up to the chandelier and Zengada grabs onto his leg and he goes, and he throws off his suit and knocks him to the ground. And then they all start opening fire on Lupin. And then he dives through the window, far away.
Yeah.
And then Letitia, who's the guard in disguise, who's in disguise as a guard, not a guard in disguise. Letitia is the... Sorry, I had to shift.
She's disguised as a guard.
She's not a guard in disguise. She's disguised as a guard. And
Depends on how you look at it.
That's true. But she goes, and she's like, sir? And he turns around and she goes, I'm so sorry! And hits him in the face with something. And he goes,
Pepper spray or something.
you're, and then he falls to the ground. And that's how he does it. Logan, play the clip. That's how he says it. Letitia goes on the roof and she's crying because she did a crime. And she links back to the guy who came when he
She's
said
crying because she did a crime.
She did a crime and now she's crying. Anyway, I started blasting. But she's sitting on the roof crying because she did a crime and she thinks she's bad now. And Lupin's like, and he steals the book with a fishing pole. And then they do a little dance on the roof and then he throws her off the roof to her death.
Or did she?
Or did he? And then he pulls her back up on the roof. And then he goes, this book is mine. And Fujiko goes, thanks for the book, retard.
And she just flies away on a helicopter.
Flies away in a helicopter. And Zengada goes, get out! Because the lady jumps off the roof and doesn't have enough time to deploy her parachute, but deploys it anyway and doesn't die. But anyway. Unless she had a fucking spring-loaded parachute.
That thing.
Spring lock!
Shut up. Wrong movie. Oh wait, no, because now I can tag FNAF and get a bunch of views from it.
Heck yeah, brother! Woo! He jumps up into where he's just in his skibbies, and then they fully kidnap him, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
they
no,
dogpile
arrest
on him, and he jumps up out of his suit into his underwear, and then he gets kidnapped by the police. And then they're transporting him. He's like, got you now, Lupin. That's what Zengada and the other little man in the truck say. And he's like, no you don't.
While they're drawing on his face.
They draw on his face. And he's like, no you don't. No. And then Jigen and Goemon come through. And Jigen kills everyone, and Goemon slices a car in half. And the only survivor is Zangar.
An armored truck.
An armored bus. And then they drive past, and Lupin jumps in, and he takes all the handcuffs off, and he's like,
Louie, took you guys long enough.
Letitia's running after she gets away from the museum, and she's like,
Grandfather, can I still do the one thing?
and he's like, no, you cannot do the one thing. And she's like, damn, and she almost gets hit by a car. But that's not relevant to the plot. But then there's the scene with the car, and then it goes to Fujiko handing the diary over to the Nazis. And the one guy holds a napkin up to his face every time Lambart's around, because Lambart's old and sick. And stinky. Fujiko hands them the diary, and he's like,
I'm old and decrepit. I'm going to open the diary because I have the key.
and then they go, actually, you don't have all of the key. But then also, this lady's tracking us. And then they tie her up in the plane. And then Letitia's at home, and she's like,
I'm never going to get to go to archaeology college. I want to go to Boston University.
and then she's like, what? And Lupin's like, hello, little lady. I broke in your house. Die mad about it. Anyway, and then she throws her shoe at him, and she goes, how did you find me? And he goes, look at the bottom of your shoe, idiot. And she's like, oh, there's a tracker on there. Oh no. And then Lupin slinks around her apartment, and then she's like,
This is my mom. Her name is Letitia as well. This is a family thing.
and Lupin goes, intriguing. And then he steals her archaeology paper.
And she goes into the bathroom to call her grandfather.
Oh yeah, she goes in the bathroom because she's got the Hershey squirts, and she has to call her grandfather. She's like, grandfather, I have Lupin's here. He has a key like ours. I'm going to bring him back to the flying base. He's like, okay, hurry up. Your turn.
Wrong. Unlike other Lupin movies, this one was intentionally set in a specific timepiece. This was set in the 1960s because...
That's when the Nazis were real.
When they were real. But other Lupin movies, it was just...
Vague.
It was either set during the present or just some ambiguous time. But this one was specifically set in the 1960s.
Why was that?
Probably because they wanted to use the Nazis.
Well, everyone knows all the Nazis quit after 1945.
I mean, nothing else happened after that.
Nothing else ever happened after that.
Not even
and
in
there
Brazil.
was no other wars ever whatsoever.
From anybody.
From everyone ever. So Letitia and Lupin are sitting in cargo crates. And they're on a boat. And she's like,
There's no shipping return label on this box.
and he's like, okay. And then they get in the plane, because the plane lands on the water, and then the boat goes into the plane. And then they
Sneak around.
and then they get into the library, and they get the Bresson diary, and they get the key. But Lambert says,
Now we just have to wait on the other key.
and then I think that's what tips Lupin off, because he starts being like, and he says something like, I think he says, with security this tight, there's no way we'll be able to make it out. So I think that's when he got tipped off. But he's working, they go up to another room, which is the room that Fujiko handed them the book in. And he unlocks it, she puts the key in, and he's like, don't do that yet! Don't do that! And she's like,
But I want to, though.
and then she does. And then she sets a timer for 60 seconds that's going to explode if they don't put the key in. So they're like, what could the code be? What could the code be? Lupon's like, oh, maybe it's this. No, it's probably not. And I counted it out, and they would have exploded before he put the code in. But anyway, he goes and he's, and it's like, it opens. She's like, what was the code that locked it? He was like, that's a story for another time. And then he's like, you can tell and they start deciphering it. And he's like, you can tell your friends to come in now. And she's like, how did you know? And he was like, I always know. I'm Lupin the Third. And then
they get captured.
Yeah, and then they get captured. Oh, and the book is supposedly one of the only things that Lupin's grandfather, Lupin the First gentleman thief, never got. He never stole. It was always right out of his grasp.
They wanted to do like an easy story, because it was their first 3D movie for Lupin, so they wanted something relatively easy that everybody could,
Which looks really
interested in, get invested into.
It looks really good for their first 3D movie.
So they loosely based the plot on the Castle of Cagliostro, which is another one of their big movies.
The other one we're going to do a review on. My favorite. So Lupin's escorted to the hangar of the plane, the back part of it. And Fujiko is already tied up there from where she tried to deceive them earlier. And the two guards that take her in there, one of them, she goes,
You're too handsome to be a guard.
can you come over here? And he goes, oh yeah. And he walks over and he hangs his sunglasses on her hoo-has because she has a low-cut shirt. And then she jumps up and she kicks him in the face, and he kicks the other guy in the face. And she kills them both. She guns them both down.
Pretty much.
And then she goes, oh, thanks for the help, Lupin. She goes, thanks for the help, Lupin. And then she moves on and she's like, well, I'll be taking the airplane. And she gets in the plane, she grabs the gun and she starts shooting the switches and stuff to drop the plane out of the hangar.
Yeah.
And she guns down two guys. No, she doesn't gun them down.
The cargo bay, yeah.
Yeah, and she goes out of the cargo plane with the big red biplane. And the guy's like, oh man, what do we tell our boss? And Lupin comes up and hits them both over the back of the head with his shoes. And he's like,
Tell him he took a siesta for all I care.
and then he up into the room where the Nazis are. Once again, same room, Nazis in the airplane are like, now that we have this book with all these powerful weapons and kill all the people. And they're like, you're right. And so he goes, this has detailed instructions on where the place is hidden. And then Letitia comes in and she goes, you're a Nazi! You're a dirty Nazi! And he's like, I don't care. And gives her a sleeping medication. And then he opens the plane and he goes, do your goddamn job, Lambert! Throw this bitch out the plane! That's what he says. That's a direct quote from the thing.
I know.
And he also holds up a picture of Adolf Hitler in a wheelchair. And he goes, this is the only proof I need to know that the Fuhrer is still alive. And then Lambert's like, no, she can still be of use to us because she's his granddaughter. And he's like, his adopted granddaughter. But she doesn't know that. And he's like, no, don't throw her out of the plane. The guy's like, don't care, didn't ask. And throws her out of the plane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Lupin dies after her.
And Lupin dives after her out of the plane. He goes,
no parachute or anything.
yeah.
The soundtrack for the movie was made to mimic Showa post-war era jazz, which is also kind of the music that they used in Castle of Cagliostro as well.
They fall he has his arms in his pockets like this, and he corkscrews down through the air to catch up with her. And he goes, oh, fancy seeing you here. And he's like, funny thing is, I jumped on a plane without a parachute. Crazy. And she's like, what? And then Fujiko comes in and picks him up with the airplane. And they grab onto the wing, and he looks down at her, and she's like, you know this is going to cost you? And he's like, maybe I can repay you with my body. And then they're flying around, dodging all the bullets, because the big airplane starts following them, tailing them. And then they fly up, and they swoop back down around and go underneath the plane and stuff. And then the turret on top spins around and hits them right in the engine compartment. And they start, like, down. And then Fujiko rights the airplane, and they're gliding, and then all of a sudden Lupin and Goemon and Jigen hill hop in the Fiat, and they're like, Letitia, jump! And she jumps, and they put her on the back of the car, and it's like, Fujiko, jump! And she jumps, and he catches her, and he doesn't sit her down, and Lupin's like, catch me! And he jumps out of the plane, and they swerve the car out of the way, so he boom, hits the ground. I was like, what was that for? Jigen goes, my hands were full. And then the plane crashes behind them. And they all have to run for cover because the plane circles back around, is gunning down at them, and blows up the car. And he's like, give me a little bit to think, and I'll come up with a plan. That's what Lupin says. And they're all sitting there. He's like, well, I guess we're going to have to do it. We'll call the one man who'd come find me no matter where I was. And he's like, they're like, what? And he goes, oh, hello, Lupin! And so he got a bust through the Interpol airplane.
It's an immediate cut, too.
It's so good. Logan, roll the clip. And he's like, so glad of you to send us your exact coordinates and turn yourself in. They all jump out of the plane and leave it completely unmanned.
Even the pilot.
They land the plane and jump out, leave it completely unmanned. And everybody runs into the plane while Interpol's over by this fake Lupin. Yeah, the gang runs into the helicopter while Interpol's over by the fake Lupin that he made with like a airplane rotor and a bunch of metal cans. And they're like, Zengada's like, I'll get you more! And he runs and he jumps off these two guys' arms and he just barely misses.
Trampolines onto it.
Throws his handcuffs and hooks onto the thing and comes and lands and perfectly gets up there. And then it cuts to Zengada tied up like Lupin was at the beginning with the marker all over his face. And he's like, I'd never work with you. No, he goes, we have been keeping an eye on Ananurba and the Nazis' movements. You know, we actually faked that picture of Hitler that one guy showed. Pretty funny, right? And then he's like, but I'll never work with you. He's like, well, okay, liberal. And then Letitia goes, would you pretty please help? And she like blinks her eyelashes and the sunlight hits her and he's like, I would die for you, ma'am. And Lupin goes, really?
This movie was nominated in Japan for an Academy Prize during the
Oscar.
No, not an Oscar.
For a Golden Globe.
It was nominated for the 43rd Japanese Academy Prize along with a bunch of other movies.
Not as good movies.
No. This is the only good one.
True. Only good movie Japan's ever made. Pay no attention to my pronunciation of Japan. The Nazis find the cave because they get to Ananurba. No. Wait, yeah, they get to Ananurba first. But they don't know how to... No.
It's in Brazil.
They get to the cave in Brazil first.
No. It was somewhere else.
They get to the cave first.
They get to the cave and then they go to Brazil.
Yes. They get to the cave first. Then they can't get in the cave. So the Nazi guy shoots holes in the wall so that it crumbles so they can get in the cave. And then they're in the cave. And then they're like, Grunt, go ahead in front of us. And the guy's like, this is easy pie. And then he gets compressed down to the size of an atom. And fucking dies. Except for his bump stock. R.I.P. my homie. But anyway, the Nazis are like, I'm not going any further. I don't want that to happen to me. And so Lupin and the gang are camping outside the cave, and they're like, easy dub. We have the book. We can do it. And so they go into the cave, and then so the Nazis go into the cave, and they're like, send the Grunt through first. Let him die, please. And he walks in, he gets compressed down to the size of a molecule, and then he gets... And then his bump stock is the only thing that survives, because it's smart. No. And then they're like, I ain't doing that! go on with that. And so the Nazis leave, and Lupin's like,
I'm going into the cave now because I have the book and the Nazis don't.
and the Nazis fly away, and then they're like, inside the cave, and they're like, what do we do? And it's like Hammurabi's code.
That's the one that says eye for an eye.
It's like, and then Zingata goes, oh, it doesn't have an eye! And Jigen goes, oh, looking at that eye! And then they take the eye and they put it in the eye, and then it's done. And then they go to the second one, and a guy has a dream about stars falling on itself and killing people. And then Jigen almost gets zapped by a bunch of little stars. And then Goemon's like, oh, my Zentetsuken is a royal Seiken. No, Zingata says that. He's like, it's forged from iron from the star of a meteorite. He's like, oh, I will not let you do this to the Zentetsuken, because it might damage the blade and make it tarnished or even dull. And he's like,
It's already happened, idiot.
and then they look behind him and there's a path of the stars.
And we forgot when Fujiko asked Lupin for a meteorite.
She's like,
Lupin.
Lupin, hand over a meteorite. And he goes, you got it. What do you think, I have a meteorite? She's like, she's like,
Don't you always have useless junk laying around?
they get to the third part, and there's deadly lasers. And he's like,
How am I going to get through this?
and they're like, Lupin, isn't that your grandfather's hat? And it's laying there with all these scars on it. And he's like,
I got an idea.
and he takes Jigen's hat and he throws it through, and he closes his eyes, so he doesn't know where any of the lasers are, except for by sound, I guess. He's like,
I've got it.
and he goes,
This just might work.
and he shoots his little arm thing out, and it hits the side of the wall, and he goes, and he dodges all the lasers, and he sees his grandfather's cane, and he goes, oh, shonk. And then he lands at the end, he's like, like that. And he puts the cane in the ground and the hat on it, because it deactivates it, because he gets to the end. And then he walks in, he's like, huh? And then they're like,
We've caught all your friends, and we're the Nazis, and we caught all your friends because we had the grunts fly the plane away, and we stayed behind, and we tricked you because we're Nazis and we're evil. And they're like, Letitia. The little bear's like, Letitia, come up, you go up the thing with us, fly the airplane thing. And she's like, I don't want to fly the airplane thing. He's like, well, let's just get in. And he grabs the book and he flies the airplane thing, and it goes boom, 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 and it smashes through the roof, and they all have to escape.
Yeah, a bunch of the grunts die. All of them die.
They dead as hell. Goemon's running out. He's like, it's like, I need my sword.
Can't live without a sword.
Can't live without a sword.
Yeah, this movie was supposed to have a theatrical release, but because of COVID, they just scrapped it and ended up putting it all on DVD and streaming services.
Which I think worked out pretty well for it.
Yeah.
Okay, so they go to fly away in the plane, and then the Interpol helicopter comes up in front of them, and the back drops, and Jigen's there with the fucking sniper. He's like, and they're like, whoa! So he's got the heavy sniper from Fortnite, and they're like, whoa! And he shoots out the plane wing with like 4 bullets, I think.
Yeah.
And then Goemon jumps on the plane wing and goes, a proper use for a Zentetsuken, and slices the whole plane wing off.
He really does the anime, and just puts it back in, jumps off, and then like several seconds later, it finally falls apart.
No, when he jumps off, it starts sliding, and then it fully falls off.
Yeah.
And then it hits the ground and goes...
And it's a clean cut, too.
Yeah. And then they run into the back, and they start messing with the Eclipse, which it makes the plane grow these weird, like, blue wings out of it. Because the Eclipse is
Is it alien technology or advanced technology? I think it's alien.
I think it's alien.
And it has the power to control gravity. So it, like, boom, 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 flies up into the air. And then it goes up, and they're like, we're going to test this on your friends and kill them. And so they go, look like EDM DJs, and they hit the button, and this little thing goes, and it like eats all the ground and stuff.
Yeah.
That makes a big ass hole. And when it closes, it sucks all the air in because it's a micro black hole generator. So it sucks all the air in. It's like whipping the plane around for Lupin and all the others. And Fujiko's piloting it, and she's like, they're like, Singata goes, what is that? And Lupin goes, the thing to destroy the world. And then they start flying away, and they're like, we need, and then LeBear's like, a shame. I was held back by this stupid pin for so long. And he throws the pin away on Anerba. And the Nazi guy's like, what are you doing? He's like, don't you understand? And he burns the Bresson diary. And he's like, don't you understand? Now that I'm the only one that knows how to control this, I don't need the Nazis. I don't need anything else. I'm the new world leader. And the Nazi guy goes, like hell you are, and kicks the shit out of Lambert. And he's like, the only man who can call himself the leader of the world is the Führer. And then the lady goes, Letitia goes to build a black hole in the middle of the thing, and he goes, and then the Nazi guy goes to shoot her, and she steps in the way, and Lambert steps in the way of the bullet, and he's like, you're nothing but a pawn to me. I never loved you. And it was like cuts to like when he met her as a little girl and like raised her and stuff. And he's like, Lambert. And the Nazi guy's like, Lambert, that old fool. And I half expected him to just take Lambert and just throw him out of the plane.
At that point, yeah.
But I don't think he does. I don't see Lambert for the rest of it. And we don't see him moving. There. But he goes to kill Letitia, and he's like, here's the thing. He's like, this is Ananerba branch in Brazil. We have found the Führer. He wants to see the eclipse. And then he goes, the Nazi guy. And they fly over to Brazil. And it's like, they go to Brazil? And then they land on a little island outpost in Brazil. And when you know it, Adolf Hitler.
In the flesh.
In the flesh. And he's in his little wheelchair. He's like, you have done well. And he looks at inspects the guy's gun, and he's like, that's a good gun. I like it. And then Letitia takes the gun, and she's like, I'm gonna kill you. What do you want with this machine? And he's like, little girl, I only want to take the people who are good and save them and make a perfect world for them and kill all the non-believers. And she's like, oh! And then some bearded guy who's a Nazi takes her away. And Hitler goes, I would like to go up into the airplane to see it go. And Hitler and Nazi guy's like, yes. And then they go, and it cuts to Letitia, and she's in the base, and the guy goes, why so sad, Letitia? And it's Jigen. And Interpol came in and swept the Ananerba base, and then cleared out all the Nazis. And when you watch them clear out all the Nazis, it's like, Fujiko takes a gun, and she shoots around all of them, doesn't hit anybody. And it's like, and Goemon, he cuts all their guns, and he slices their clothes. It's like, and Pops wraps them all up with the handcuffs, and he wraps them all up, and they go to jail. And Goemon's Jigen's just like, yeah, I just fucking shot all of them.
I started blasting.
I started blasting. And
It's like, and you're just watching these people die. And it's like, they had it coming. They were Nazis. Yeah. And it's like, where's Lupin? And he's like, he's up there. And they're like, boo, that's not Adolf Hitler?
Yeah, this movie received an award of excellence. I don't know what that is or how good that is, but it received an award of excellence.
It did. It definitely did.
So good for it.
Good for it.
It deserves it.
We got to the airplane.
What a segue.
What a segue. I just hopped on it. And then I ended up in an airplane with Adolf Hitler and a Nazi. Anyway.
That's how I met your mother.
That's true. That's how I met your mother. But we were, what the fuck? Adolf Hitler. No! We were staunchly opposed to Adolf Hitler back in the 1940s. Even though I wasn't alive, I was still opposed to him.
That was a good 60 years before I was born.
Yeah, same. But anyway, they were. So anyway, continuing on with that thought about Adolf Hitler, we are at the airplane now, and it pans up, and we know that Lupin is Hitler, but the Nazi guy does not know that. And so Lupin goes, how does this thing work? And he's dressed up like Hitler. So he's like, oh, how does this thing work? And the guy's like, well, this controls the power, and this controls the location. And you slide this little doohickey over, and you hit the button. And he goes, very nice. And he's standing over there with the wheelchair, and he's like, whoa! And then he stands up, and they're like, Fuhrer, you're standing. And he's like, oh! I can't believe I did that.
It's a miracle!
A miracle! And we watched this movie dubbed. That's how we prefer to watch the Lupin movies. Yell at me in the comments. I won't read them.
They're just funnier that way.
Yell at me in the comments. I won't read them. I won't read them. Do your worst, liberals. Anyway, when you watch the dubbing, this is the scene where you can really see it. This one and where it's Letitia Lambert and the Nazi guy all on the plane.
Yeah.
You can really see it because they do some close-ups on faces, and you can tell the words don't match. But so he takes Lupin takes the mask off. He goes, "You got me. It's me. I'm not Adolf Hitler." And then the tail comes up through the airplane. He's like, "Well, I'm gonna not to kill you and run, but," and it's the thing. And he goes, "Well, I'm out of here." And he goes, and he starts climbing up the plane. And the Nazi is like, and he's like, "Wait a minute, I'm just trying to get out of here." He's like, "Killing you is first. Surviving has to wait." This is one of my favorite lines. It's so dumb. Logan, play that clip.
You're gonna get us killed, you know? The priority is your death. Surviving can wait.
But the Nazi and him get into an altercation up on top of the plane, and in the end he ends up kicking the Nazi up, and he flies over him and hooks onto his arm, and he's hanging there, and then the Nazi falls, and Lupin goes, "A parting gift," and he throws the letter down, and it like into
the picture of Hitler.
Yeah, and and he stole the eyeball earlier in the movie, and it lights up in his pocket. And he's like, "Oh." And then the whole plane gets eaten by the black hole, and then boom! So it destroys the eclipse, so that nobody can have it. And then all of a sudden you're like, "No, Lupin is dead." Well. And then everyone's sad, and then he's like, "Oh, I didn't die, idiots."
Lupin never dies.
Lupin never dies. And he gives a letter to the lady, and he's like, "I mailed your application, by the way, to Boston University. Good luck in Boston, you bozo." And then he's like, "I never liked working with a fledgling thief anyway." And then they hop onto the boat, and they run away. And Fujiko takes the nice boat with all the jewels, the Nazi jewelry and gold and stuff. And they're in the shitty boat, him, Goemon, and Jigen.
And then Pops is chasing him after it with an Interpol boat with all the agents. And Lupin's boat backfires. And as they're driving past, all the soldiers go, and they salute Letitia. And then I keep going, is no one going to pick her up on the way out of here?
They just leave her there.
This lady just stranded on this island now. How's she going to get to Boston University now? It's not like the Nazis are going to be able to fly her back. But that becomes the end of our little story. Yeah. And Lupin gets away, and the Nazis are destroyed and arrested.
And that's the end of the movie.
And that's the end of the movie. Oh, and Lupin's grandfather is the one that built the lock for the Brisson diary. I skipped over that scene. I forgot. Oopsies!
Yeah, because earlier in the movie, Lupin says that the diary felt nostalgic for some reason.
He's like, this is nostalgic, but I don't know why.
And then he realized that the lupus flowers on the diary were because of his grandfather.
He's like, of course it isn't the only thing he couldn't steal. He's the one who made the damn thing. Oh, and at the beginning they were joking that Hitler was the one that funded Brisson's research. But then they're like, oh wait, no, it was Arsène Lupin, his grandfather. Of course, that's the guy that funded his research. The first gentleman thief funded research on a fucking gravity weapon.
The reason this is the first 3D Lupin movie was because Monkey Punch was like, what if we created a 3D Lupin movie? And they went with the idea. So they were developing it for a while. I think it started off in, 2015, 2016 is when they started production on it. It had been in development for a while, and 2019 is around when it started wrapping up. But Monkey Punch had died by then, or died in 2019.
RIP my homie for real.
So the next year, the movie finally came out, so he never actually got to see Lupin in 3D, the full movie. So this was dedicated to his memory as his last and final big Lupin project.
Yeah. At the very end of the credits, no, at the start of the credits, it says, I'd love to keep sending Lupin on adventures everywhere. And it has his signature at the end of it.
Yeah.
A touching sign-off to a wonderful artist.
A great series, amazing artist.
Yeah. I need to get the manga.
So do I. I've been trying to find it. It's hard to get a hold of.
RP peace for real, my homie.
And with that, we'll see y'all in the next video.
We'll see you in the next one.
Thank you for watching.
Thank you for watching.
Bye.
Bye.